Hello everybody, Intuition here. Thank you as always for making time and space for us. Today we would like to talk about how to get in touch and access the other aspect of yourself, also known as the higher self. However, we like to refer to it as the other aspect of ourselves. It makes it easier for us to connect with that other aspect, as it is not placed upon a pedestal saying that it is higher, then therefore we are lower than it. As we are equal, we both see each other as equals, and so then therefore we like to express that as channeling our other aspect of self. We believe that it is important at this time to get in touch with this information because many individuals at this moment in our history are feeling very alone and separated, scared, fear-based, and not understanding what it is that they should do next, and feeling as though they would like some support, and not knowing which way to turn. And the best individual, if you want to call it that, to turn to is the other aspect of yourself that is always right there with you. You know how they say, God is always right there with you. Not to say that that isn't true, but God doesn't really like to interfere too much with the comings and goings of universal principalities that aren't in their right mind and then therefore can't even really hear the voice of God to begin with. So God likes to leave us alone, so to speak. But the individual that is always with us is the other aspect of ourselves that is still resonant with the space and the place in which we originate from, which is not Earth or this universe. So it is important then, therefore, to get in touch with this other aspect, now more than ever, potentially, because they are perfect, objective, neutral points in consciousness that are associated and identified with you and as you, and then, therefore, they could never really lead you in the wrong direction should you be feeling as though you need support and guidance or just somebody to talk to. So, enough babble about your other aspect of self. Let us proceed into what it is that you need. So, how you channel, how you access that other aspect of yourself is as simple as starting to listen to the voices that are happening and going on within your own mind. There are usually two main voices, and that is your voice answering the personality voice. How you distinguish and know what the personality's voice is, and this is important to know when it is that you are listening for your own other aspect of self's voice, the higher self's voice. It is always talking to you. You do not have to sit and go into a meditative stance and state. You do not have to do a yoga position. You do not have to chant all day long. In fact, if you do many of those things, you miss the voice entirely. So what we recommend, what works best for us, is simply listening. And that does not mean being silent. It means listening to the voices that are going on in your head at any given moment, at any given time. The voice of the personality will sound very critical. It will say things like you should, you need to, you have to. It will be very authoritative, and it will always be resounding in musts. And should you choose not to follow what it is that the personality voice is saying, then it will scold you and guilt you and shame you. It is important to know that that is not your voice, and that is also not the other aspect of yourself's voice either. That is the personality construct's voice, and because that is the loudest voice, it is always yelling and screaming and knowing exactly what it is to say to put you into a state of shame or fear or sadness or grief. Because that speaks and sounds the loudest and knows exactly how to manipulate you, that is really usually the only voice that you hear within yourself, other than your voice answering back. So, that is not your other aspect of self's voice. Your voice answering back to the personality voice is also not your other aspect of self's voice. That is more of your own voice. Once you are able to get that personality voice quiet, by identifying what it is speaking to you. You get it quiet, by the way, by simply not going along with what it is that it is saying. It will say, you have to, you must to do all these things. And you could simply reply by not replying at all. Or you can say, I don't know who the hell you think you are, but I'm not taking directions today. I must not do anything. If something is telling me to do something in the vocabulary of musts and have-tos, then you are no authority in my life. I am my own authority, and I will not answer back in surrendering myself or my power to anything, even if it is my over-identification with the personality. So simply by saying no, quiets that voice. Not going along with it quiets that voice. And then therefore, it frees you up to actually hear the other aspect of yourself's voice. Again, it is not necessarily you having to sit and meditate. It is just simply listening, keeping a keen ear out to hear it, because it is speaking to you all the time. And that voice will simply sound very suggestive. It will not tell you you must do anything. It will not tell you you have to do anything. It will not shame you, guilt you, scold you. It will never throw an emotional bomb at you to make you feel as though you are full of guilt and shame and like there's something wrong with you. Your own voice will always simply say, oh, is that what we're doing today? Okay. Another sleeve of Oreos, all right? If that is what you're saying that you want to do, then we follow all the way. We support it 100%. Are you sure it is that you want to be doing that? No blame, guilt, or judgment, just a question. That voice is always simply just asking, is this what it is that you know to be true for yourself? So maybe that is underwhelming. But also, it is a big distinction in understanding that that is not your voice. The voice that is screaming at you all the time is not your voice, nor is your voice the other aspect of self that is always suggesting something to you, expressing there is another potentiality, if you'd like to know it, that will lead you into a completely different path, a completely different journey, a completely different image than what it is that the personality voice will guide you to. But it will be unfamiliar, and you will have to take that risk. But it is important to know that that is also not your voice. Your voice is the voice that is answering back to those other two voices bouncing around in your head. Which means, again, the good news is that you're always channeling, if you want to call it that. You're always channeling your higher self or other aspect of self. It is always right there with you. It is always conscious within you, simply waiting for you to be conscious within yourself enough to realize that there's more than just you bouncing around in there. So once you start listening to the suggestions, you don't necessarily have to follow them. You could go with what it is that you're familiar and comfortable with and follow right along with the personality voice if you choose to. But when you start listening to your other aspect of self's voice, you start strengthening the bond. You start strengthening you being able to hear, because it is like a muscle. You have to learn how to hear, so to speak, and tune out and tune in, just like you have to learn how to hear and tune in and tune out what it is that your other aspect of self is saying versus what it is that your personality is saying. And if you get good at it, you stop hearing the personality voice altogether, and the only thing that you hear is your higher self speaking to you, guiding you all the time. Should you ask? Should you express a desire and a want to? If you like, something that also helps is to be able to distinguish that other aspect of yourself's voice is by calling it by a specific name. You could ask that other self's voice what its name is, if you'd like, and wait to listen to hear a response back. So then, therefore, you know when you have a question, before you phrase it, you say, Yogi Bear. That is my higher self's name. Tell me, should I get in the car today and drive? And then Yogi Bear's response will be, perhaps that is a valid option. However, we suggest you get on your bike. There's some scary people driving today. However, if you prefer to get in your car, that is a valid option as well. Brilliant will always refer to me when we are not sitting in complete channeling sessions like this. Brilliant will refer to me and say, intuition. I have a question for you. X, Y, and Z. Just to be clear, just to be sure that Brilliant is not hearing the personality's voice, trying to mimic and pretend like it is my voice. So you could do that with your other aspect of self. Even better yet, if you have already identified the universal principality that you are, you can call out that universal principality's name. Resilience. I have a question for you. Life. I have a question for you. Order. I have a question for you. Wisdom. I have a question for you. Intellectualism. I have a question for you. Evolution. I have a question for you. But that is, again, if you know what universal principality you are. But if you do not, then it is adequate. It will suffice for you to simply ask what it is that your other aspect of self's name is. And it might not give you the universal principality's name is. It might give you something simple like Joe, Mike, Aaron. And that will be fine. So we say all this and we understand that it could be underwhelming. We understand, well, we were waiting for some kind of bells and whistles, but that is misinformation. You do not have to extend yourself into a meditative trance-like state in order to get in touch with this other aspect of yourself. Should it be easier to hear that voice? We find it easier, or in the very least, Brilliant finds it easier to get up early in the morning. Brilliant doesn't really have a choice to get up early in the morning. Brilliant has a child, so Brilliant has to get up early. However, while getting up early, Brilliant uses that to their advantage. And in using that to their advantage, they're able to move past the personality's voice because the personality doesn't like getting up early. The personality is only functional at certain times. And that is why these Buddhist monks, these Buddhists in general, get up early at about 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, because that is when the personality lens, the personality voice, is disembodied, dismembered, because all universal principalities need rest. Even the personality needs rest. So you get up early, and there's less of a chance that you'll be hearing that personality talking and going on because it will still be in a state of rest. Not sleep, rest. So, more likely that you'll be able to hear your own other aspect of self's voice, and you could ask it a question. And it will feel different. It will sound different than that of your personality's voice, and that will be another beautiful indication. Beyond the words that it is using, by using suggestions, it will also sound and feel different just by the connotation, just by the tonality, just by the warmth that you feel when it is that you are talking, the connection. So, these are our suggestions, these are our tips for you. This is what works for Brilliant and I. However, if this is underwhelming again for you, then maybe you know a better way that we are not aware of. And we encourage you to use that way in whatever way is working best for you, as you are potentially a different universal principality than we are. And all different universal principalities are masters of different understandings. That's why we're different. So, that is what it is that we have to offer at this time. We wish you well talking to that other aspect of self. It is talking to you all the time, hoping, wishing, wanting for you to actually hear what it is that they're saying. And now, maybe, is the opportunity and chance for you to actually hear and listen to that voice that is inside of you and has always been with and within you since the beginning of your time. Thank you, as always, for making space and time for us, and we wish you well wherever it is that that voice and you go to.